Talking with famous people.
Hi folks, host Eric here, host of Talking with Famous People, and welcome to the ENTP In-Depth. I've got quite a bit of ground to cover here, so I'll get started right away. You'll see in this first slide we've got a guy's head with a bunch of adjectives in it, and the reason I chose this slide will become evident shortly. So if we look at the first slide here, we're going to see I've got an overview of what this chart looks like when you see all 3 pages, but I'll zoom in here on it so we can focus on what we need to focus on shortly. But first, let's take a look at this history slide. So what this slide is taken from Wikipedia, and it shows how humans have been trying to taxonomy personality since 450 BC. And back in the day when humanity believed there were 4 elements, namely air, water, fire, and earth, the ENTP type personality was associated with air. So if you go down that thing, you're going to see that the ENTP has been described as sanguine, socially useful. We're known to operate under the general functionality of influence. Types of character. As far as social styles go, we're expressive. We're a team type. I totally agree with that. I really prefer working with other people. We're synergistic win-win, which is absolutely true. I am 100% in favor of solutions where everyone feels as though they walked away benefiting. And I'm absolutely opposed to situations that don't do that. We're collaborators, and we're socializers, and our interaction style is to get things going. So, alright, as you can see, humanity's been thinking about personality for an awfully long time, and ENTPs have been around for the whole of it. Alright, let's look up close at this one. I want to look at the right side of this first. So, here we are. These are some of the names or roles that have been attributed by various websites, various models, various people. The visionary, the inventor, the debater, the seeker, the enthusiast, the excitement seeker, the explorer, the entrepreneur, the innovator, the selector, the risk taker. Now, the example people, some of them I like, some of them I don't like. Don Quixote, I don't like that as an archetype for us because it's dismissive in my opinion. Xenophanes, who's referenced in Nietzsche and I don't know. Steve Allen, I put that one there because I've often thought Steve Allen is the quintessential ENTP. He's dead, of course, but Richard Feynman, I put the ones I liked, you know. David Hume. When I was in high school, writing for the high school newspaper, I wrote under the pen name Hume because I was fond of his philosophy. Oscar Wilde, I put there too. I put that one there. I don't know if he's identified as that or not, but it seems to me he is. It's just my read. Was. I mean, he's dead too. Steve Wozniak, Bertrand Russell, one of my favorite philosophers. John Stuart Mills, a fierce defender of liberty and well worth the price of admission. John Stewart, an effective debater. John Cleese, funny as hell. Now, if you look at these facts and quotes, I think there's some interesting facts here. We're among the most highest paid of types, and yet we're also among the least satisfied with our pay. We are the least picky about mates on one criterion, and I'll show you that in a second, but among the least picky on another criterion. Type for least stress with the ESFP. We are one of 2 types most frequent among violators of college alcohol policies. Wow, shocking. ENTP makes up 4% of males and 2% of females. This quote here from Nietzsche: "The freedom of the individual finds its high point in Xenophanes and in almost boundless withdrawal from all conventionality." Well, I'm with you there, Nietzsche. The entrepreneur, sorry, wrong section. Scored among highest of all types in available resources for coping with stress. Least likely of all types to report stress associated with family and health. And I mean, you can see this with myself. And in fact, even though I'm going through a divorce, and it's not, you know, those things are never easy, I certainly feel as though I'm fine. I mean, I don't feel stressed, you know. Or the least likely of all types of heart disease and hypertension. and everything else. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I go to the doctor and they're like, what do you eat? Nothing but fast food. And what are your habits? I smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day. Why is your lung capacity so enormous then? I don't know. Yeah, your lungs are better than all the non-smokers who come in here. Why? I don't know. Why don't you have high blood pressure? Why don't you have any physical problems? I don't know. That's just, we're lucky. We got a good body for that. We have to because we pay no attention to it. And of course, among highest of all types on measures of creativity. It's probably taking a little bit too long here. I'll move faster. Look here at these type compatibility charts. You'll notice that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 types who don't have any red squares. Red squares mean don't get with that chick. That's not going to work. The blue squares mean hooray, that's perfect. The dark green is pretty good. Light green, Yellow, meh. But look, ENTP, we've got 4 yellow, 4 light green, 2 blue, bunch of dark green. But what I've also read and researched before is that the ENTP is the least picky about their mate when measured by levels of satisfaction differentiation. So like the difference between the type we're least satisfied with and the type we're most satisfied with, that difference is smallest for us. Okay, let's move on. There's a good reason for that too, which is we're hella adaptable. So I'm going to be talking a lot about the functions 5th through 8th here, and I want to leave this little thing up here so we get it clear in our head. Dominant function obviously is extroverted intuition, and our creative function, the second function, is the introverted thinking. I would call this, our who you are, what you do, or how you do you. And then the third one they call aspirational. I might call it motivational. It's FE. And then the fourth one is our weak spot. That's SI. The fifth one they call our suggestive function. It's NI, and it's the mirror of NE. The sixth one they call mobilizing is TE. That's our external organization of that's our being bossy, basically. Seventh, observant, FI, and eighth is the demonstrative, that's SE. So, let's move forward here, and now that we've talked about these 8 functions, let's talk about the 4 dimensions of usage briefly. So, this one Russian dude named like Baslow or something, he came up with this notion that there are 4 dimensions of usage, and that it goes like this. It goes, you can use your dominant function in all 4 dimensions, then your next one in 3, your next one in 2, your last one in 1, and then number 5 is also 1, then 6 is 2, then 7 is 3, then 8 is 4. Okay? So the 4 dimensions are time, context, norm, and experience in inverse order. So experience is the lowest level, which is to say, even your weakest function you can do experience, personal experience. Like, well, I'm experiencing something, so I know what I think about it right now. 3 is the next easiest to do, which is apply social norms. Second is context, which is being able to adjust according to the specifics of the circumstance. And then the most difficult dimension of usage is managing time frames. So let's move forward. All right, if we look here at the stack, these ones should be fairly familiar probably to most people. The first one, as we said, we walked through this already, but the dominant or leading function, that's the nickname, and you can operate that, we can operate that, ENTPs and ENFPs can operate that extroverted intuition on the level of personal experience, norms, situations, and time. And this is the lens through which all your experience passes through. Second, your auxiliary function, your creative function, or your tool function. This is your main doing style. Your third function, extroverted feeling, this is a motivational one. We really would like to do well in this function, but we're not very good at it. And when we succeed, almost for sure, we've impacted other people in a way that makes us feel as though we've been successful. And then last, our vulnerable function in the conscious stack is SI. It's where we have the place of least resistance. And that's why when you look at my videos that aren't made up of these little slides, you see a garage that any normal person would be terribly embarrassed by. But you'll notice I am unable to change that to conform to social norms. I'm only operating in one dimension on the introverted sensing, which is my personal experience. So what does that mean? It means like, this thing's in my way again. I move it over there now. Now it's in my way over there because there I'm, Alright, so let's go on to the shadow functions now, the unconscious functions. NI, introverted thinking, is the suggestive function for us. Somebody that I've been tight with and bonded with deeply for a long time. He is someone who leads with introverted intuition. And it's absolutely true. I trust him and I feel comfortable to him and I'm drawn to him. Like I really feel connected with him in some way that I don't with many other people. And of course, I trust him completely, but if he were not trustworthy, that's the dangerous person for us because they can deceive us. And the sixth function, the mobilizing function, it is extroverted thinking. You can tell that you don't get this function at all, but success in its domain makes you feel very satisfied and accomplished. What is this domain? TE. It's bossiness. I don't really get bossiness at all, but I do feel satisfied when I'm running my business like a boss. And I had a lot of people tell me, like, man, you're being like a boss, you know, sometimes when I'm being put a handle on stuff. And it makes me, first of all, I'm not aware I'm doing it, and then I go, oh, that's ugly. But also, when everything falls into place and the ship's sailing super smooth and everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing, I feel absolutely very satisfied and accomplished. And I found this very interesting to read. That extroverted thinking, that's organizing people and making them do shit and being hierarchical and stuff like that. Alright, so let's go on to the troublemaker here. The trickster function, the observant function, introverted feeling. A strong unconscious function that you will find offensive and that you will desire to suppress. I totally desire to suppress it. People are always telling me shit like, well, but I don't feel like, I don't fucking care how you feel. That's not the point. Anyway. Alright, so the last one, it says, is the demonstrative function, and this function acts silently beneath your awareness to protect against vulnerabilities from the fourth function. All this stuff makes perfect sense to me from the ENTP stack. Perfect sense. The demonstrative thing, the SE, is what I more or less never do, which is like, oh, well, I'm so mad, now I'm going to punch you, or something like that, right? I have to be in, well, I mean, I have to be under assault or something. Like I was one time when I got in a fight with Steve, and he sucker punched me in the window of my car. All the time, he ran a whole bunch of blows through the open window of my car right into my face. And eventually, I managed to scramble out of the car, and I got punched a few more times. Next thing I know, I'm looking up at the stars, lying on the cement in the middle of the road. Oh shit, I got knocked out. Now keep in mind, I am not a brawler in any sense of the word, and I am not somebody who had even the slightest iota that was going to happen, right? He walks up to the car, I'm like, hey Steve, and boom! He thought I was fooling around with his woman. But it wasn't even his woman anymore at that point. They were over and done with, and I wasn't fooling around with her at that point, so I don't even know what the deal was. But regardless, I did fool around with her eventually, but they were long since over. I wouldn't do that. Anyway, So he knocked me out, and I was lying there in the street. I got up. I was like, what happened? I was like, oh, fuck, he just attacked me, and I just got knocked out. And then, without thinking about it 1 second, I just ran straight into my friend's house where he had gone into to argue with his woman about something. And I just flew in there like a free safety, tackled his ass. His head went right back into the drywall, punched a hole in the drywall, and rolled around on the carpet back and forth, like sort of grabbing at each other, pulling each other's hair or whatever he could get a hold of. And he got scrambled out of my grip and went and locked himself in his woman's car with his woman. And but the point of all this whole story is that's my demonstrative function saying, okay, you need to go away, Eric, because I've got to handle shit. And that was entirely not me thinking and making decisions, right? It was just rage. So that's what happens. That's the only time the only time I can think of when it came out. So I put up all these adjectives. I found shitloads of adjectives about ENTPs and all the various websites and stuff. And I made a big list of them. And I thought, now, what are these actually referring to? We can maybe match these adjectives up with specific functions or pairs of functions. So this is how I've done it so far. One thing that Socionics tells us is that some ENTPs are TI heavy and some ENTPs are NE heavy. So if you identify more with the effective, competitive, assertive, dominant, rational side, then you're what an Enneagram would call 7 with 8, and you're probably more TI. If you identify more with the spontaneous, versatile, flexible, adaptable, improvisational side, you're probably more NE heavy. I used to think I was more 7 with 8 because I am very competitive and rational, but and I'm pretty assertive. I mean, I'm very assertive, but I'm not really that dominant, and I'm not particularly effective. I'm all of the other things, though. So I think I'm probably not that kind. The third thing that gets mentioned a lot about ENTPs is the talkativeness. That would be a combination of NE plus FE as supported through TI, who produces the logic for our communications. We go here now, the head's gone upside down. Why? Well, because he's stressed out now. You see? And you'll show, if you want to pause there, you could look at those words. Alright, let's go on to the next one. So here we are on the back end of the stack now. These are the shadow functions. And you'll notice that the adjectives change from positive things to more or less negative things, right? So NI, this is your fifth function, and this is where your gullibility, obliviousness, trusting, and susceptibility comes from. TE, this is where I've put these adjectives: rebellious, contrary, confrontational, and challenging. The reason I put these here is because, of course, TE is not those things. It is directive and order-seeking and hierarchical by nature. You see, I don't have TE as a conscious function. I have the shadow version of it. So while I do feel very accomplished when, instead of being rebellious, contrary, confrontational, and challenging, I'm directive, authoritative, and effective, the reality is I manifest rebelliousness, contrariness, confrontationalness, and challengingness way, way, way more frequently, at least consciously. I execute control mechanisms over groups all the time. I use TE all the time, but I don't recognize it as what I'm doing. It's driven by extrovert feeling or something. Let's talk about some of these manifestations of non-optimal human functioning that the ENTP is likely to manifest. Why are we going to manifest them? Where are they coming from? And how are they going to look? First, one of the things that causes this problem is our weak SI. That's our fourth slot. Where it hurts our identity, we might feel inferior when it comes to learned order, rote acquisition of facts, or mastery of a bunch of closed system shit that's not interesting. How do we project it onto others? ENTPs dismiss learned methods as irrelevant. A bunch of closed system shit that's not interesting. Yeah, well, it is irrelevant. Our secret desire with a mate. I enjoyed this one. I rewrote most of this stuff, but I got it from a couple different web pages. And my secret desire, enjoying nostalgia. Yeah, that's a secret, all right. I get it though. I feel it's resonant truth in my bones. Like, yeah, kind of secretly I do want to be, sitting there and talking about some banal shit and being pleased by it. But we can be engaged in non-optimal human functioning when we feel as though our NE is obstructed. And when that happens, when people are saying like, no, shut you down because you're coming up with too much shit, well, then we don't like that. And we say, hey, taking only one possibility derived individually instead of the multitudes from the environment is stupid and limiting. We're angry at NI, basically. Your stupid NI is saying, here's the answer. That's just one of a million fucking answers. So don't be stupid and limiting. I feel this guy. I'm not even projecting on anybody, but it's not even projection. It's goddamn truth. Alright, so here are the things that make us like that, right? Did I already do this slide? I did. Let me get rid of that slide. So let's look at it again real quick. NITSE, you see those things. Alright, fine. So now let's go down to the sixth function. Well, what happened to the fifth function? The fifth function, NI, obstructs NE, okay? So that's why you don't see the fifth on here. You just go straight to the sixth. So, sixth function. The which function, the critical parent function. What do we feel criticized about or negated in or become disgruntled about? External logical order. Yes, of course. How do we project it? We will fight, compete, and one-up others over the way things are ordered. I'm the authority on logical sense. You are being illogical. I subconsciously know my logic is not practical to others with my internal focus, and I project this onto you. Okay, well, that seems pretty much accurate. The trickster, the bad child, the clown. Function 7. For us, for us, function 6 is going to be extroverted thinking. And that's why it's about external logical order. And then function 7, trickster, that's going to be our inverted feeling. And it's absolutely a trickster. And this says, what happens? Well, we feel double bound by a focus on individual values. And then we use that to trap other people. So we're in some sort of conflict. We feel as though they're trying to bind you, limit you, because they're trying to control your behavior in some fashion. And then what do? I laughed when I fucking read this thing, because I do this shit all the time. I make it about their ethics. First of all, if you're fighting with me and it's gotten to that point, you're wrong, because I've already conceded all the parts I've been wrong on, like pretty much right away. So, alright, you're already wrong, and now you're going to be trying to control me. You're being unethical. And let's talk about your ethics now. I do that as a default position for anything that I feel like I actually have to go to battle on. Make it about their ethics. Of course, you got to be straight about everything. You can't be shady yourself, or it's not going to work. All right, let's go on to the next slide. This one here, just looking again at the 5th through 8th functions, just so we can take another glance at that in case you wanted to remember about the dimensions or the behaviors. We'll move right on though from it, and when we do, we'll see I've got some adjectives that I see as paired with one conscious and one unconscious function, or one extrovert and one introverted at least, as you see here with the FI is unconscious, but the TI and SI are conscious. So NE plus SI, so in other words, strong NE and weak SI means we are scattered, flighty, inconsistent, and irresponsible. Strong NE and shadow FI means we are not good on our own feelings and values and stuff, and we come across as arrogant, haughty, narcissistic, and self-centered. We aren't actually any of those things. Maybe arrogant, maybe haughty, but we're not narcissistic and self-centered. I mean, we're self-attending to. We attend to ourselves, but we're not self-centered. Anyway, well, whatever. Who cares? Extrovert intuition plus introverted thinking, well, that's where we get the home run power, you know. Oh, you mean I can both be super improvisational on the fly and super accurate and analytical? Oh. Can any other types do that? No, they can't. Look at these needs here next. I like these needs because the first four of them are really negative. I need affection and approval. I need to please others and be liked. I need a partner who will take over my life based on the idea that love will solve all of my problems. I need my life restricted in narrow borders, to be undemanding, satisfied with little, inconspicuous. I need power over others for a facade of omnipotence caused by a desperate desire for strength and dominance. Then the other needs are a little bit more nice. Well, not number 5. Exploitation of others. I need to get the better of them. I need to win. Number 6. Social recognition or prestige. I don't know exactly why this is so different from affection and approval, but I guess it is different. Personal admiration of others. We need somebody to admire. Personal achievement of intrinsic goals. We need to feel like we're accomplishing stuff that only we care about. Self-sufficiency and independence. We need to feel like we're not relying too heavily on others. And number 10, we would like to be as perfect and unassailable as possible. So, these are sort of needs that we have to wrestle with. Some of them we would like to minimize, and some of them we'd like to meet, right? If we look here at the FI, SI, and then the NE plus FI adjectives, you'll see these are unwise, gluttonous, starry-eyed, quixotic. That's all for FI. For SI, we're sloppy, clumsy, cluttered, and hunched. But when we combine NE, well, that's where the childlike stuff comes from. And the reason NE plus FE. Why? Because what are we good about knowing? We're good about knowing how to make people feel certain ways about certain ideas and stuff. But what we are not good at is understanding how other people feel about us. And that's where the childlikeness comes in. Because we aren't reading how our behaviors are impacting others very successfully. And that means, NE plus FE means we're childlike because we're interested in pleasing others and we're interested in, displaying for others and stuff. But at the same time, we don't really have a good sense of how they actually feel about us. And at the end of the day, we really don't care as much as most people do, probably. So that's where that comes from, in my opinion. Now, this thing here, I included just because I want you to see this very interesting notion here of the holy idea on number 7, the enthusiast. The ENTP personality type is the enthusiast personality type in the Enneagram. And it's either going to be a 7 with 6 or a 7 with 8 usually. So if it's 7 with 6, that's going to be an ENTP that's more like my daughter, who is nicer. She's got less pow 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 in her, I mean, she definitely has it. I remember not very long ago when she came out and started telling me about how she, put the handle on some moron on the internet. And I was like, oh my God. I could imagine myself having that exact conversation like 10 years ago or something. I'm not really so enamored with putting a handle on the internet anymore, It just seems... I'm just more compassionate than I used to be, basically. I feel bad when I use language as a weapon. But I do it all the time, but I try to be attentive to it to some extent. Okay, so we're closing up onto the end of this thing here. I know it's super long. Hopefully it's been interesting enough to justify your staying watching it, or you've already gotten something useful, and that'd be good enough for me too. You'll notice here, I hope you enjoyed this video. I spent a lot of time making these little poster things here. Some of them, obviously, I didn't make the one from Wikipedia that I copied, but the colorful ones, I made those in OpenOffice, and I just used the snipping tool to take pictures of them like that. All right, well, have a pleasant evening, and I hope you feel informed about the ENTP personality type and the shadow functions and how they may link to some of our problem behaviors or occurrences of difficulties in life. Thank you very much, and talk to you later.
Talking with famous people.